Today, I would like to talk about a fundamental shift taking place in global carbon markets as we move toward COP30. The core message is simple. We are moving from negotiation to liquidity. From nearly a decade, climate diplomacy focused on negotiating rules, definitions, and the frameworks. And that phase is largely complete. What matters now is whether carbon markets can function at scale, attract capital, and deliver real decarbonization. And so we call this, we are at the pivot from negotiation to liquidity. And basically, we are talking about something from rule book to liability. And during the negotiation phase, the priority was building the Paris Agreement rule book, especially about the Article 6. Today, the global focus has shifted toward implementation, including the market liquidity, environmental integrity, and institutional scalability. Carbon markets are no longer peripheral or experimental. Rather, they are becoming core global climate infrastructures, similar to energy or financial markets. And certainly, in terms of the strategic context, we are witnessing carbon markets evolve beyond voluntary CSR tools. They are now embedded in national climate strategies, industry policy, and international trade. This shift fundamentally changes how governments and corporations engage with carbon credit. The question is no longer whether markets exist, but how credible and liquid they are. And beyond the fragmentation, we can look into what's going on about a formulation of new architectures. Basically, Article 6 is organizing the global market into two complementary tracks. First of all, it's about the Article 6.2. Indeed, this is a government-to-government cooperation by terms of bilateral or plurilateral frameworks, such as Japan's JCM and Singapore's implementation agreements. These systems are gradually becoming operational with strong emphasis on integrity. And then we turn to another track. That's about the Article 6.4. 6.4 represents a centralized UN-supervised mechanism. Its significance lies in standard setting. It defines what high-quality carbon credit must look like globally. Even actors outside the UN systems are increasingly aligned with these standards, including like the VCS and the gold standard. And certainly, we see the evolving of the new standard of carbon credit integrity, just like those mentioned by former panelists. And two elements are now non-negotiable for so-called valid credits. First of all, it's about the corresponding adjustment. This is essential to prevent double counting between countries. And certainly, I would mention the third element first, the sustainable development safeguards. The credit must deliver real social and environmental co-benefits, not just carbon removal on paper. And how about the second one, the government authorization? I'm going to leave that to another slide for further deliberation. By essence, I call it the securitization of carbon credits. And what would be the carbon impact? I mean, the market impact derived out of this integrity requirement. Basically, the voluntary carbon market are rapidly becoming Article 6 aligned. And why so? because buyers, especially the multinational companies, are demanding compliance-grade assets, and low-quality credit increasingly face pricing discount or reputational risk. So that's why the country authorization becomes so important. And so far, whoever would like to deal those cross-border carbon credit trading experts, they understand that we need to look into the host country's authorization first, because it sounds like a kind of the new license to operate. So host country authorization has become the new gatekeeper. And without it, project risk being excluded from high-value markets. So that's why we need to care about host countries' authorization in advance. And this represents a shift of power toward governments and reinforce carbon market as a tool of national strategy, not just private initiative. And then let's turn to the carbon market as industrial policy. Now, carbon markets are no longer only environmental instruments. They are now used to attract international climate finance on the left-hand side and accelerate industrial decarbonization on the right-hand side. And certainly that also strengthen diplomatic and regional alliances in terms of the geopolitical influence. In short, carbon is becoming a competitive economic asset now. And why the region matter? Yes, other panelists mentioned a lot about the regional development lately, especially about what's going on in the Asian Pacific region. So far, the Asian Pacific region is emerging as the center of gravity for carbon markets. I think we all agree with that. This is driven by manufacturing concentration, rapid energy transitions, and regional trade integration. Article 6 is not just about the project. I would like to emphasize that. It is institutionalizing regional trade relationship. And just we can tell from this slide, we can see a lot of countries are highlighted on it. And what all this is about? The most important takeaway is that Article 6 is reshaping how countries trade, cooperate, and compete in the low carbon economy. It goes far beyond carbon credit as individual transaction, right? So from this slide, we notice that Japan is now served as the main funder, and Singapore try to define it as a kind of the hub. And most of the country located inside or inclusion in the Asian region will be somehow taken as a kind of the supplier. And you can see that we all are working together here. You will see the JCM agreement and the implementation agreement I mentioned earlier. So that's the Asian Pacific regional market. Is not just under development, rather it's turning into the materiality. And how about Taiwan? Taiwan is not a party to FCCC, so we are somehow face a very unique situation or challenge in terms of the constraint, because we are not a UNFCCC member, neither we could be the formal ITMO authorization. So we somehow face some risk, including a trade-dependent economy that will at risk. Deeply embedded in global supply chain, we suffer a lot from the brand name companies' pressure. And certainly, recently, we are directly affected by the policy like the EU CBAM. You can tell from this slide that Taiwan is somehow like a country hanging around this region, but anyway, we are still linked with this region. So we cannot opt out of Article 6 impasse, no matter what kind of the diplomatic situation we are. And then how can Taiwan survive out of this restraint or the risk exposure? First of all, we think that we need to build our Article 6 readiness at home first. So we need to find a way to link the global standard. So we need to build up our own domestic rules. This means that we need to align domestic MRV system, registries, and the standards with international norms. Yes, Taiwan is now working on this. And the goal is functional recognition, where technical compatibility comes before political recognition. That's been always what Taiwan want to do. And secondly, we need to leverage our private sector's agility or the flexibility. The private sector plays a critical role, and Taiwanese company can act as investors, technology providers such as digital MRV, buyers of Article 6 aligned credits abroad. Yes, we are doing this as well. And certainly the government's role is to provide legal clarity, guidance, and the risk mitigation frameworks so that you can see that from private sector's perspective, we can serve as kind of investor, technology provider, and the buyers to bridge our domestic environment with the international market. And the third strategy, I call that the technical diplomacy through technology. And Taiwan can position itself as a provider of high-tech decarbonization solution and a digital infrastructure for regional carbon markets. And this creates functional interoperability even without formal political partnerships. I think that Taiwan has done a lot so far in this way or this manner. And just like our former friends, other panelists mentioned, either from our MRV specialty or the market consultation services, or maybe just the data analysis, you can see how well we can support this regional market development from the investment side, the purchasing side, or the technical support side. And finally, maybe we can make a kind of strategic position for Taiwan's reference. Basically, I think it's important that we need to embed into the global architecture. And Taiwan may sit outside formal Article 6 architectures, but its economy and industry are already deeply embedded within its gravitational pulls. So you can tell that in short term, we can do our domestic capacity building and corporate guidance. And for the medium term, we can serve trying to implement our functional interoperability with regional markets. And for the long-term purpose, we can try to drive the high integrity carbon service hub as well. So anyway, the path forward will rely on the technical excellence, corporate agility, and the functional alignment with global standards. And that's what Taiwan should do. And then we can incorporate ourselves with this regional development strengths. So that's about what I would like to share with all of you today. Thanks.